Daniel walked through the bright corridors of the neutral station, his boots making a faint echo on the smooth metal floor. The station was always busy, filled with beings of every shape and size moving about their day. He had seen tall insect-like traders carrying glowing crystals, short-scaled workers repairing panels, and floating jellyfish-like creatures gliding above the crowd. It was a place of countless species, each one so different, yet somehow living, together. For Daniel, this was not unusual. He was used to being stared at. Humans were still a new presence in the wider galaxy. Many aliens had never seen one in person, and those who had often studied him with open curiosity. He had learned to ignore it, though sometimes it made him feel like a rare animal on display. Today, however, he had little time to think about it. His task was simple: a routine medical checkup required for all visiting diplomats. He entered the clinic, where the air smelled faintly of antiseptic herbs. Transparent walls shimmered with soft blue light, and machines hummed gently in the background. A receptionist with a long, delicate neck and feather-like skin asked for his name. Daniel gave it politely, and soon he was directed into a clean room where the medical staff would examine him. The nurse who greeted him was unlike any he had met before. She was tall and graceful, her skin a pale silver that seemed to shift slightly with the light. Her large eyes were calm, but carried a depth that suggested experience. She introduced herself as Sira, speaking in a gentle tone that made him feel at ease. Daniel smiled, grateful for her kindness in a place where he often felt like an outsider. "Just routine checks," she said, preparing the scanning device. "It will be quick." Daniel nodded and sat on the examination chair. He rolled up his sleeve as the device hovered near his arm, projecting lines of light that passed through his skin. The process was painless, and he watched the holographic screen as symbols appeared in alien script. He could not read them, but he assumed everything was normal. At first, Sira's movements were steady and professional. She checked his pulse, measured his breath, and ran the scanner across his chest. Daniel relaxed, thinking about what meal he might have after this. But then, something shifted. He noticed her hand pause for just a second longer than before. Her large eyes narrowed slightly at the screen. She pressed a button and the device repeated the scan. Daniel frowned. "Is something wrong?" Sira quickly masked her expression. "No, just verifying the data. Hold still, please." He obeyed, though a small knot of worry formed in his stomach. She ran the scanner again, slower this time, as if confirming a detail. The screen glowed brighter, and Daniel saw a symbol flash red before vanishing. Sira's silver skin seemed to dim. She tapped the console, her movements slower now. After a long silence, she saved the file and entered a code. Daniel did not understand the language, but he caught one word displayed in bold: classified. The atmosphere in the room shifted. The hum of the machine suddenly felt louder, the air colder. Daniel sat straighter, his heart beginning to race. He had been through many checkups before, but never had a nurse acted this way. "What does that mean?" he asked carefully. Sira glanced at him, her calm expression carefully maintained, though her eyes betrayed unease. "It is nothing you should worry about," she said softly. "The doctor will review the results." Daniel did not believe her. He had spent enough time with aliens to know when they were hiding something. He wanted to press further, but something in her tone stopped him. It was not fear of him, but fear for him. The silence stretched between them. Daniel tried to stay calm, but his mind filled with questions. Why would a routine checkup result in a classified mark? What had they found inside him that required secrecy? He thought about the stories he had heard, rumors of certain species being detained when their biology posed some kind of unknown risk. Was that what was happening to him now? Sira closed the scanner and stepped back. "You may leave for now. We will contact you when the results are ready." Daniel stood slowly, searching her face for answers. She avoided his gaze this time, busying herself with the console. The sense of unease in his chest deepened. Something about her reaction told him this was not just another ordinary day. As he left the clinic, Daniel felt the stares of passing aliens more sharply than before. Their eyes followed him, curious, watchful, almost cautious. He tried to brush off the feeling, but the knot in his stomach only tightened. What had the nurse seen in his scan? Why had she marked his file as classified? He replayed the moment in his mind, remembering the way her silver skin dimmed, the hesitation in her voice, and the soft warning hidden in her calm eyes. Daniel had come expecting nothing more than a routine checkup, but deep down he knew this was the beginning of something far greater and possibly far more dangerous. Daniel could not stop thinking about the way Sira had looked at him. That brief pause, the red symbol on the screen, and the word classified burned into his memory. It was supposed to be nothing, just a scan, just a health check, but it did not feel like nothing anymore. Back in his assigned quarters, he tried to distract himself. He made tea from the small kit he always carried, something that reminded him of home on Earth. The steam rose slowly, calming his nerves, but his thoughts refused to settle. He kept replaying the scene, the way her voice softened when she told him not to worry. That tone was not reassurance. It was a warning hidden under control. The station outside his quarters was alive with sound. Ships arrived and departed. Traders argued in markets. Engineers worked with sparks flying from their tools. Life went on as normal, yet Daniel felt like he was standing apart from it all, waiting for a storm no one else could see. Hours later, the message came. His terminal blinked with a notice. Results pending further review. Await summons. It was short, almost cold. He frowned. Normally, medical results came quickly with simple explanations. This vague reply only deepened his unease. Meanwhile, in the clinic, Sira stood in front of her superior. The chief physician, a towering reptilian with scales like polished stone, stared at the data with unblinking eyes. "This cannot be correct," he muttered in a deep voice. "The scan was repeated 3 times," Sira replied quietly. "The readings are stable. There is no error." The physician's claws tapped the console. "Then the human carries it. The resonance. I thought it was myth." "It is real," Sira said firmly. "But I do not believe he is a danger." "That is not for us to decide," the physician replied sharply. He pressed a sequence of codes, sending the report higher into the station's security chain. "This must be handled carefully. If word spreads too soon, chaos will follow." Sira bowed her head, but inside unease grew. She had seen classified cases before, rare mutations, dangerous viruses, unusual biology. But this was different. The symbol that appeared on Daniel's file belonged to an older system, one used to mark subjects tied to forbidden research and lost history. It was something even she, as a trained medical officer, had never expected to see in her lifetime. When she returned home that night, she could not rest. She thought about Daniel, his polite smile, his calm patience, the way he tried to act normal even when he noticed her hesitation. He was not like the rumors some aliens spread about humans being reckless or violent. He was careful, thoughtful, and resilient. Could such a person really be classified as dangerous? The next morning, Daniel decided to walk through the public market to clear his head. But he quickly noticed the difference. Aliens still stared, but now there was something else in their eyes. Not just curiosity, but caution. Conversations dropped silent when he passed. A merchant refused to serve him, pretending not to see him at all. Daniel clenched his fists, frustration building. He had done nothing wrong. Whatever the scan had shown, it was now spreading in whispers. He was becoming something else in their eyes, a secret, a risk. Later, when he returned to his quarters, he found a message slipped under his door. It was not electronic but handwritten, in neat alien script with a translation attached. It said only, "Be careful. They are watching you." There was no signature, but Daniel had a strong guess of who sent it. That evening, Sira requested a private meeting with her superior again. "He is being watched already," she said urgently. "If we treat him like a threat, others will act before we even understand what he carries." The physician sighed, his heavy chest rising and falling. "Nurse Sira, you are young. You still believe in the goodness of individuals. But this is larger than the human. If his biology is what I fear, then history may repeat itself. Or it may not," she argued softly. "Perhaps it is not a curse, but a chance. Perhaps this is why his kind survives where others do not." Her words hung in the air. The physician gave no reply, but his silence revealed he had no clear answer either. Meanwhile, Daniel sat alone in his room, staring at the note. His instincts told him that Sira was the only one he could trust on this station. She had seen something in him, something she could not reveal openly, and she was taking risks already by warning him. As the station lights dimmed to simulate night, Daniel lay awake, unable to rest. He thought of Earth, of his people, of how small humanity still was in this vast galaxy, and yet something in his blood had drawn so much attention. Something hidden, something ancient, something even the aliens feared. He whispered to himself in the dark, words he hoped no one else could hear. "What did you see, Sira? What am I to them?" But there was no answer, only the hum of the station and the feeling that his life had just crossed into dangerous territory. Daniel woke the next morning to the soft chime of the station clock. The air in his quarters felt heavy, as if even the recycled oxygen carried unease. He sat up slowly, rubbing his face. Sleep had not come easily. The whispers in the corridors, the warning note slipped under his door, and the way Sira had looked at him, all of it had stayed with him through the night. He dressed quickly and decided to leave his quarters. Staying inside would only make the silence louder. As he walked through the station halls, he noticed it again, the stairs. A pair of insectoid traders stopped talking the moment he stepped near. Two scaled workers stepped aside too quickly, their eyes fixed on the ground. Even the jellyfish-like beings that usually floated freely kept their distance. It was not just curiosity anymore. It was suspicion. Daniel clenched his jaw and kept walking. He was a diplomat, trained to remain calm under pressure. But there was only so much calmness one could hold when every glance carried hidden meaning. He reached the observation deck, a wide-open space with a transparent wall that looked out into the endless stars. Here, at least, the silence felt natural. Ships drifted in and out of the docking lanes, their lights blinking like distant lanterns. Daniel stood there for a long while, trying to breathe, trying to remember that he was still just himself. Nothing more, nothing less. "Daniel," a quiet voice called from behind. He turned and saw Sira. Her silver skin shimmered faintly under the lights, though it seemed dimmer than before, as if burdened by the weight of her thoughts. She approached slowly, her steps careful. "You shouldn't be here alone," she said softly. Daniel gave her a thin smile. "I'm beginning to feel like I shouldn't be anywhere at all." Her eyes lowered, and she stood beside him, gazing at the stars. For a long time, neither spoke. Then, Sira sighed. "The rumors are spreading faster than I expected." "So it's true then," Daniel said, his voice quiet but steady. "Something in that scan has marked me as different." Sira hesitated, then nodded. "Yes. The data showed a resonance, a pattern in your cells. It matches records from long ago, records most believed were only myths." Daniel frowned. "What kind of myths?" Sira's large eyes turned to him, filled with both caution and sympathy. "Once, there was a race that shaped much of the galaxy. They were powerful, advanced and proud, but they vanished before most of today's civilizations were even born. All that remains are fragments, ruins, artifacts, and whispers of their legacy. Some say their spark could be found in others, hidden deep in bloodlines. We call it the echo. And you're saying, you found this echo in me?" Daniel asked, his voice filled with disbelief. "Yes," Sira admitted, "and that is why your file was marked classified. The Council fears what it could mean. Some will see you as dangerous, others as a prize. Either way, you are no longer just a human diplomat in their eyes." Daniel's heart pounded. He had come expecting nothing more than a health report, and now he was being tied to ancient legends. "But I'm just Daniel," he said firmly. "I'm not a weapon. I'm not some relic of the past. I'm just me." "I know," Sira whispered. "But the galaxy has never been kind to those it calls different." They stood in silence, again the stars stretching endlessly before them. Daniel felt the weight of her words pressing on him. He thought of his people back on Earth, still young among the stars, still learning how to stand tall in this vast galaxy. And now, somehow, his blood carried a spark that others feared or worshipped. A group of aliens entered the observation deck. They spoke quietly, but their eyes lingered on Daniel. He felt their whispers like sharp needles. Sira noticed too. She touched his arm gently. "Come," she said. "It is not safe here." They walked through the quieter corridors away from the stairs. Daniel wanted to ask her 100 questions, but one rose above the rest. "Why are you helping me? You could lose everything if they find out you've spoken to me about this." Sira's steps slowed. Her silver skin flickered faintly as if reflecting her emotions. "Because I believe in choices," she said. "And you deserve to know what you carry, even if others want to hide it. I do not think you are a threat. I think you are proof that humanity has something no one else has." Daniel stopped walking, looking at her carefully. "And what's that?" Her eyes met his, steady and clear. "The will to survive without forgetting hope." The word struck him deeply. He thought of Earth's long history, the struggles, the wars, the rebuilding, the reaching for the stars despite the odds. Maybe she was right. Humanity had always clung to hope, even in the darkest times. Before he could answer, a faint sound echoed down the corridor. Heavy footsteps. Voices speaking in a tongue Daniel did not know. Sharp and official. Sira's expression hardened. She grabbed his hand, pulling him into a side passage. "They're searching for you," she whispered. Daniel's pulse quickened. He had never been hunted before. The diplomat in him wanted to walk out calmly, to reason, to speak, but the human in him, the one who remembered every struggle of survival, knew that reason would not matter to those already convinced he was a secret worth taking. As the voices grew closer, Daniel realized that his life on the station had changed. Forever. Whatever the echo was, it had placed a target on his back, and only Sira stood between him and the unknown forces gathering in the shadows. Daniel's breath came fast as Sira pulled him deeper into the narrow service tunnels of the station. The footsteps behind them echoed faintly, growing sharper with every second. These were not casual patrols. Someone was actively searching. Sira guided him through dim corridors where the walls hummed with power cables. Pipes leaked faint heat and the air was thick with the smell of machine oil. Daniel tried to keep quiet, but his boots scuffed against the metal floor. He whispered, "Who are they?" "Station security," Sira said in a low voice. "But not ordinary guards. They are from the Council's special division. When they move, it means the matter is no longer medical. It is political." Daniel swallowed hard. "Because of this echo?" She nodded once. "They fear it or they want it. Either way, you are no longer safe in public." The footsteps faded for now, and Sira stopped at a maintenance hatch. She opened it and motioned for him to crawl through. On the other side, they emerged into a small, unused storage chamber. Dust floated in the faint light, and old containers sat stacked against the walls. Daniel leaned against the wall, catching his breath. "You said the echo came from some ancient race. What do you really know about them?" Sira sat across from him, her silver skin shimmering faintly in the shadows. She seemed to choose her words carefully. "The records are broken, scattered among ruins and old data cores. But every fragment agrees on one thing. The ancient ones were not ordinary. They shaped worlds, bent science in ways even now we barely understand. Some say they built the first gates that connect the stars. Some say they reached beyond time itself." Daniel frowned. "And they're gone now?" "Yes," she said. No one knows why. Some believe they destroyed themselves. Others say they left the galaxy behind. But their mark, this echo, was feared by those who studied it. It was said that if it returned, it could bring great change. Perhaps destruction, perhaps renewal. No one agreed which. Daniel sat in silence, trying to take it in. He had never asked to be part of any legend. He was just a human, a representative trying to build trust between species. Now he was being tied to the ghosts of a civilization older than history. Finally, he shook his head. But I'm not them. I'm just Daniel. I don't have power. I don't have secrets. I bleed. I get tired. I laugh at bad jokes. Why treat me like a weapon? Sira's eyes softened. Because fear is easier than understanding, and the council fears what it does not control. Before he could reply, a metallic clang echoed through the walls. Daniel stiffened. Sira rose quickly, moving to the door. She peeked out, then shut it again. They are sweeping the lower decks. We cannot stay here long. Daniel clenched his fists. He was tired of hiding, tired of being watched like some dangerous relic. Then I need answers, he said firmly. If they're going to chase me because of this echo, I deserve to know what it really means, not rumors, not myths, the truth. Sira studied him. For a moment, Daniel thought she might refuse, but then she nodded slowly. There is a place, she said, an archive hidden in the station's old levels. Few know it still exists. If the truth can be found anywhere, it will be there. Together, they slipped back into the tunnels. The journey took them through forgotten passages where the station lights flickered weakly and the air tasted stale. Daniel moved carefully, following Sira's calm guidance. Finally, they reached a heavy door marked with faded symbols. Sira placed her hand on the scanner, and after a long pause, the door opened with a hiss. Inside was a chamber filled with ancient data crystals, dusty consoles, and holographic projectors that looked older than the station itself. Sira moved to one of the consoles and began working. This archive is forbidden for ordinary staff, but I was trained here once, long ago. If the records speak of the echo, we will see it. Daniel stood in the middle of the room, staring at the flickering holograms that began to appear. They showed towering figures, beings of light and shadow, their forms shifting as if they could not be captured in one shape. They held tools that bent space and cities that floated above planets. The sight made his skin prickle. A deep, ancient voice echoed through the archive, speaking in a language Daniel did not know. The system translated slowly. We were the first. We carried the spark that endures beyond death, beyond ruin, beyond time. If it is found again, it will call forth trials. Those who carry it must choose to destroy as we did, or to create anew. The hologram faded, leaving silence behind. Daniel's chest tightened. He looked at Sira. They're saying, it's inside me? This spark? Sira nodded. Yes, and that is why they fear you. They believe history could repeat itself. Daniel stepped back, running a hand through his hair. His heart raced, but not just from fear. There was something else, something burning inside him. He remembered Earth's history. Wars, yes, but also rebuilding, hope, the reaching for the stars. Humanity had never been only destruction. He looked back at the faded symbols on the wall. If they want me to be a weapon, they'll be disappointed. I'm not here to destroy. If this spark is real, then maybe it's not a curse. Maybe it's a chance. Sira's silver skin glowed faintly brighter. For the first time, she smiled. That is what I believe too. But before either of them could say more, the door behind them rattled. Voices shouted. Security had tracked them here. Daniel's pulse surged. The time for hiding was almost over. The truth had been revealed, and now he had to decide how to face those who would rather see him as secret than as human. The heavy door shook as security pounded from the other side. The old archive chamber trembled, dust falling from the ceiling. Daniel's heart raced, and Sira quickly moved to shut down the holograms. The towering figures of light and shadow faded, leaving only the dim glow of the consoles. "They've tracked us," Daniel whispered. Sira nodded grimly. "We have little time." The door groaned as powerful tools cut through the lock. Sparks flew as the barrier weakened. Daniel clenched, his fists torn between running and staying. He had never been hunted before, never felt like prey. The diplomat in him wanted to explain, to reason, but deep inside something else stirred, the human instinct to fight for survival. The door finally burst open, and armed security officers stormed inside. Their armor gleamed under the flickering lights, and their voices barked sharp commands. "Step away from the console. Hands where we can see them." Daniel raised his hands slowly, his eyes steady. Sira did the same, her silver skin dimming, with unease. A tall officer stepped forward. His insectoid features clicked as he spoke. "The human is to be taken for containment, by order of the council." Daniel frowned. "Containment? I'm not infected, I'm not dangerous." The officer's mandibles clacked. "Your biology holds what should not exist. You are classified as a potential threat. You will comply." Daniel's jaw tightened. Every instinct told him to shout, to resist, but Sira's calm voice whispered beside him, "Daniel, not here. Not now." He took a slow breath and allowed himself to be restrained. Heavy cuffs clamped around his wrists, cold, against his skin. As they led him away, he glanced at Sira. Her eyes met his, silent but determined. She had not given up. They marched him through the station corridors, past crowds that stared and whispered. Daniel felt their eyes burn into him. To them, he was no longer just a man. He was a secret revealed. Some looked afraid. Others looked awed. But none looked at him as simply human anymore. The guards escorted him into a secure chamber deep within the station. The walls glowed with energy fields, humming softly. A single chair sat in the middle, surrounded by scanners. They forced him down, and the restraints locked him in place. Moments later, the council representatives entered. There were 5 of them, each from a different species, their forms tall, scaled, feathered, or strange beyond simple description. Their eyes studied him like scholars examining a rare specimen. The eldest among them, a feathered being with golden plumage, spoke first. "Human, do you understand what you carry?" Daniel's voice was steady. "I understand enough to know. I'm not your enemy." The golden being tilted its head. "That is not for you to decide. The echo is dangerous. It destroyed its makers. If it blooms in you, it could destroy us all." Daniel leaned forward as much as the restraints allowed. "And if it doesn't? If it's not a curse, but a chance to build something better?" Humanity has survived countless struggles. We don't carry only destruction. We carry hope, the council murmured among themselves. Some faces softened with doubt, others hardened with fear. Another counselor, a scaled reptilian, hissed. "Hope did not save the ancients. They fell, and the galaxy nearly with them. Why should we trust a species as young as yours?" Daniel's eyes flashed with quiet fire. "Because we learn. We remember our mistakes. My people have fought, yes, but we've also rebuilt every time. We don't give up. That's what makes us human. That's what makes us different." For a moment, silence filled the chamber. The counselors exchanged glances, their whispers hushed. Then the golden leader spoke again. "You speak boldly, perhaps too boldly. We must decide whether you are to be locked away or studied." Daniel's chest tightened. "You speak of me like I'm an object, but I'm not just the echo. I'm Daniel, a man, a human. You can classify me as secret or dangerous or rare, but in the end I am still myself, and you cannot take that away." The words hung heavy in the air. At that moment, the door opened. Sira entered, her silver skin glowing brighter than Daniel had ever seen. She bowed before the council, her voice firm. "If you fear him, you fear wrongly. I have seen him. He is not a weapon. He is a mirror. He shows us what we have forgotten, the courage to believe in more than survival. The council watched her closely. One counselor narrowed their eyes. You risk much by defending him, Nurse Sira. She stood tall. Then so be it. But I will not let fear decide his fate. The golden leader raised a hand, silencing the others. We will deliberate, it said. For now, the human remains under watch. The matter is not yet decided. The guards moved to escort Daniel back to his chamber. As they passed, Sira caught his eye and gave a slight nod, a silent promise that she would not abandon him. Locked in isolation once more, Daniel sat in the quiet hum of the energy field. His heart burned with frustration, but also with a strange resolve. He was no longer just a visitor on this station. He was the bearer of something the galaxy feared, and maybe something it needed. He whispered to himself in the empty room. They can cage me, but they can't decide what I am. That choice is mine. Daniel sat alone in the glowing cell, the steady hum of the energy walls pressing against his ears. Hours passed, though he could not tell how many. Time in the chamber felt stretched and heavy. He tried to steady his breathing, but frustration kept rising inside him. He was not sick, not violent, not guilty, yet here he was, treated like a secret to be hidden away. Finally, the door opened. The energy wall dropped, and guards entered. The council summons you, one of them announced. Daniel rose slowly, his wrists still bound in cold restraints. He followed them through long corridors until they reached the council chamber again. The room was tall and wide, filled with shadows cast by the bright lights above. The 5 counselors sat in a half circle, their faces unreadable. This time, the chamber was crowded. Observers had been allowed in, officials, scholars, and even a few curious citizens of the station. Their eyes all turned toward Daniel as he was led inside. He could feel the weight of their stares, some sharp with suspicion, others curious, a few even hopeful. The golden-feathered counselor began. Human Daniel, you stand before us carrying the echo. We must decide if you are danger, relic, or something else. Before we judge, you may speak. Daniel took a slow breath. His voice carried clear, though his chest was tight. I never asked for this echo. I didn't come here to be studied or feared. I came as a diplomat, to build trust, and yet here I am, bound in chains for something I don't understand. The scaled reptilian counselor hissed sharply. That is because your kind is too young to understand. The echo once burned this galaxy. We cannot risk that fire again. Daniel looked around at the chamber, at the faces waiting for his words. He felt anger inside him, but he refused to let it control him. Instead, he spoke slowly, carefully. Yes, humanity is young, but that is not a weakness. It is why we endure. Every world we've settled, every challenge we've faced, we've had to survive without knowing all the answers. We stumble, we fail, but we rise again. That's what we do, the crowd murmured softly. Some tilted their heads, listening closer. The feathered counselor narrowed its golden eyes. Do you claim that your species is different from those who came before? That you will not repeat their mistakes? Daniel's voice grew stronger. I can't promise perfection. No one can. But I can promise this: humans don't stop. When we fall, we get back up. When we are broken, we rebuild. When we are afraid, we still take the next step. That's what makes us human. Not power, not the echo, but the will to move forward even when everything tells us not to. Sira stepped forward from the edge of the chamber. She was not supposed to speak, but she did. Her silver skin glowed faintly as she addressed the council. I have seen this truth. I treated him not as legend, but as person, and what I found was not a weapon, but a heart that refuses to surrender. That is rarer than any ancient spark. The scaled counselor hissed again. Hope and words are nothing against history. Daniel turned his eyes toward him. History is not a chain. It's a lesson. You fear the ancients because they destroyed themselves, but maybe that's why the echo found its way into us. not to repeat their end but to remind us to choose differently. We are not their shadow, we are our own light. The chamber fell silent. For a long moment no one spoke. Even the guards shifted uneasily, glancing at one another. Then a new voice came from the crowd, a scholar with translucent skin, their voice trembling. Perhaps he is right. Perhaps the echo does not return as curse, but as chance. Another voice rose, then another. Quiet murmurs spread through the chamber. Some doubtful, others hopeful. The air shifted with possibility. The golden leader raised a hand and the voices stilled. It studied Daniel with an unreadable gaze. Your words carry fire, human. Fire can warm, or it can burn. We must decide which yours will be. Daniel met its eyes firmly. That choice isn't just mine, it's everyone's. You can lock me away, you can call me secret, but the truth is already out. Others will whisper, others will wonder. The question is not what I am, it's what we all choose to believe about what humans can be. Silence pressed down again, but it was no longer the silence of fear. It was the silence of thought, of change slowly breaking through walls of doubt. The Golden Counselor finally spoke. We will not decide today, but your voice has been heard, and the station has seen it as well. Perhaps this is not the end of the echo. Perhaps it is the beginning of something new. The guards removed his restraints. Daniel flexed his wrists, feeling freedom again, even if it was uncertain. He looked toward Sira, who gave him a small nod of encouragement. As he was led out of the chamber, Daniel felt a shift deep inside him. For the first time since the scan, he was no longer just surviving. He was standing for something bigger. And, though the council had not given their full judgment yet, the people had heard his voice. That alone was enough to spark change. The days that followed were heavy with waiting. Daniel was no longer locked in the glowing cell, but he was not free either. Guards followed him everywhere, and the eyes of strangers lingered on him with a mix of fear and curiosity. The council had not yet spoken their final judgment, and the whole station seemed to be holding its breath. Sira stayed close to him whenever she could. Her presence was a steady comfort, her calm words reminding him he was not alone. Your voice reached them, she told him more than once. It will not be forgotten. But Daniel knew voices alone were not enough. Fear ran deep in the galaxy, deeper than trust. The echo was no small thing. It was a memory written in the blood of civilizations, a scar that had never healed. On the third day, the summons came again. Guards escorted him to the council chamber, where the 5 leaders waited. This time the hall was filled with even more observers. Word had spread beyond the station. Delegates from other worlds had arrived, each eager to witness what fate awaited the human. The golden-feathered leader rose, its wings folding gracefully at its sides. We have heard the arguments, we have studied the records, and we have watched how the people respond. Now the council must decide. The scaled counselor leaned forward, his voice sharp. The danger is clear. The echo cannot be trusted. We should contain him permanently, to ensure it never blooms again. Another counselor, the one with translucent skin, shook their head. Containment will not erase what has been revealed. Already whispers spread across the stars. If we hide him, it will only grow into greater fear. Better to guide than to bury. The chamber stirred with murmurs. Daniel felt the weight of their words press against him, but he stood straight. Whatever they chose, he would not let himself bend under it. The golden leader looked down at him. Human Daniel, the council is divided. Some see a threat, others a chance. Before we give our final word, we ask one more time. What will you do with the echo if it truly lives within you? Daniel's heart pounded. Every word mattered now. He took a breath, steady and deep, and let his thoughts settle. Then he spoke. I don't know what the echo really is, not fully. Maybe it is danger, maybe it is gift, but I do know this. Whatever it is, I will not let it rule me. I am more than what my blood carries. I am human. We are not perfect, but we fight for more than survival. We fight for meaning, for hope, for each other. If the echo burns, then I will hold it back. If it shines, then I will use it to build. That is my promise." The words echoed through the chamber, strong and clear. For a moment, there was silence. Then the golden leader spread its wings. Then let the council decide. Each counselor placed their hand upon the glowing table before them. The light pulsed as their thoughts were weighed, and the chamber grew still. The watchers leaned forward, waiting. At last, the light dimmed and the result was clear. The golden leader spoke, its voice carrying across the hall. "The council has chosen. The human Daniel will not be contained. He will not be silenced. Instead, he will be recognized as ambassador, not only of his people, but as bearer of a legacy older than us all. The echo will not be locked away. It will walk with him." The hall erupted with sound, some voices cheering, others protesting. But above the noise, Daniel felt something shift. The weight of fear had not vanished, but it had been balanced by something new: recognition. Sira stepped forward, her silver form glowing with pride. She looked at Daniel, her eyes bright. "You stood before them and did not break. That is why they listened." Daniel gave a faint smile. "I didn't stand alone." The scaled counselor hissed in displeasure but said nothing more. The decision had been made, and even his anger could not undo it. Later, as Daniel walked through the station freely for the first time since his arrest, people stared again. But the looks were different. Some were cautious still, but others held respect, even admiration. Whispers followed him, not of fear alone, but of possibility. He and Sira found a quiet place by the great viewing window that looked out into the endless stars. The galaxy stretched before them, wide and unknown. Sira broke the silence. "What will you do now?" Daniel gazed at the stars, his voice calm but steady. "I will do what humans have always done. Keep moving forward, one step at a time." She tilted her head. "Even with the echo inside you?" Daniel nodded. "Especially with the echo inside me. It may be danger, but it may also be the reason we were meant to be here, not as shadows of the past, but as something new." For a long time they stood together, watching the stars. The future was uncertain, but it was not dark. It was waiting for choices, for courage, for hope. And for the first time since the routine checkup that had changed everything, Daniel felt not like a prisoner, not like a secret, but like what he truly was: a human.